Major Hurricane Erin continues to grow, and another tropical wave is likely to develop near the eastern Caribbean later this week. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's nice to see you on this Monday. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, I'll have all the newest information on Major Hurricane Erin, what's been happening with the storm today. We'll take a look at what is likely to occur at the models, where it's going, the impacts that are expected in the western Atlantic basin as Erin continues to grow in size, and there is another tropical wave that is likely to develop close to our area over the next few days. So, jam-packed video, let's get started. Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You get storm damage of any kind, they can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. As always, love to hear from the Meteo Mundo weather community. Let me know what's been happening in your area. If you have been impacted by Erin, let us know how you guys are doing. One other thing I want to note as we get into the storm is that I value everyone's opinion, all the comments that we get in the videos. As we talk about a major hurricane and the impacts that are, going to be coming into some areas, we're going to really hone in on what has been happening and what is the most likely scenario to happen. So if you've seen on social media, various comments about the storm is going this way or that way, I invite you to listen to this video. I have had 25 years of television meteorologist experience. I have worked in some of the biggest weather markets in the United States. So, take who you want to believe, if you will. But in this video, we're going to be talking about, the scenarios that are most likely to play out with the models and what we've been seeing with Erin. So we're going to start off right now with Erin going through an eyewall replacement cycle on this Monday. It has emerged out of that, and it is an extremely healthy hurricane. Look at all of the lightning produced here. That's a good indication that that core is strengthening back up, and the winds have come back up as well. Now, all the numbers that you see are wind gusts in miles an hour. So Erin is back to a Category 4 hurricane at the hour. We'll look at what it looks like on our visible satellite imagery. The other huge story with Erin here is that it is getting larger in size. It is expanding, which means the wind fields are expanding, which means you don't have to be as close to the center of circulation to begin to get more significant impacts. And that's going to be the story across the western Atlantic basin over the next several days. This is the 5 o'clock advisory on this Monday for the Hurricane Center. Winds are up to 140 miles an hour. Pressure is back down to 937. Erin is strengthening, and it is not out of the question that it could get into a high Cat 4 or a low end Cat 5 again. More than likely staying at Cat 4, but it might be close. It's moving northwest at 310 degrees, and that's important because on the compass, we continue to see that turn more northerly from 290 earlier today, so more of a kind of west-northwest to more now northwest at 310 degrees on the compass. It's slowing down at 10 miles an hour, and it is located about 695 miles to the southwest of Bermuda, a little bit more than 850 miles or so from Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Latest watches and warnings. Tropical storm warnings continue for Turks and Caicos in the southeast Bahamas. They're still likely to see some tropical storm conditions through Tuesday morning. Tropical storm watch is in effect for the central Bahamas and now for Cape Lookout to Duck, North Carolina. That's the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Those areas of OBX are also under a storm surge watch where we're going to get extremely dangerous waves. We're going to get extremely dangerous surf moving through portions of the United States East Coast, portions of the Bahamas, and even Bermuda as well. Latest recon data, we had a reconnaissance aircraft just go through Erin not that long ago. Still extremely strong on the northeast side. Basically, all of the purples that you see are hurricane force winds at flight level. But notice that the southwest side of the storm is beginning to get stronger. It was much weaker 24 and 48 hours ago, much more of a concentric hurricane now, and these winds continue to pick up. So again, just more and more impressive for us here on the satellite imagery and everything that we've seen. Now, again, for our friends in the Turks and Caicos, we have two sensors down here. There is one on Grand Turk and one in the Caicos, but they've mainly been offline. Obviously, the power and internet is an issue down here, but we have picked up a 46-mile-an-hour wind gust earlier today there in the Caicos. We still have San Salvador reporting in the central Bahamas. They've had a 30-mile-an-hour wind. So again, all the way up now from the Cat Island area south, including Exuma and Long Island and Rum Key and San Salvador, you guys are now under tropical storm watches, and we have our tropical storm warnings for the Acklins, Inagua, Mayaguana, and Turks and Caicos. This is still a storm, excuse me, a little bit too far west here, still a storm that is impacting the Dominican Republic and Haiti and portions of Puerto Rico with still some lashing showers and storms at the hour. So let me show you what's been happening today in Turks and Caicos. We got some great members of our Meteo Mundo weather community. This is Daryl from Grace Bay showing you again, it's been a very squally day. Obviously, the surf conditions have been kicked up. That's put on some of that sargassum seaweed to the beaches as well. Power has been on and off in Turks and Caicos all day long. You know, most areas have come out okay. There's been some minor flooding reported here or there. Claudia, another great video from Grand Turk, really talking about how the surf conditions were picking up on Grand Turk on this Monday. And again, the weather just going downhill with these squalls that have been producing winds of over 50 miles an hour. So from time to time, we're losing power here, and we could see a little bit of overwash coming on shore as well. But generally speaking, both Daryl and Claudia said, you know, we've been managing okay in these areas. If you do live in the Southeast Bahamas or Turks and Caicos, you've had a little bit worse than Claudia and Daryl, please let me know. And you can always send us pictures and videos. The easiest way to do so is myMediaMundo@gmail.com. Now, obviously, down the road, we'll start to look into the central Bahamas, and we have our live cameras here at Media Mundo to help tell the weather story. This is Long Island in the Bahamas. Again, you know, Erin is moving off towards the east, staying away, but we're still going to get the western feeder bands coming in, and tropical storm force winds are possible in Long Island beginning tomorrow. So we'll monitor that camera and our camera in central Eleuthera as well. So looking at when these tropical storm force winds will arrive, again, right on through the evening and overnight hours, southern Bahamas into Turks and Caicos, central Bahamas tomorrow. Can't even rule out the northern and northwest Bahamas. I mean, especially up towards places like the Abacos, you know, with a low-end opportunity to get kind of some of the squalls here on the western side as we get into tomorrow night, and then early on Wednesday, and then late Wednesday into Thursday. It's going to be up the United States East Coast and into Bermuda as well. Again, the potential for that. Now, still expecting Erin to make this turn as it's doing right now, and basically splitting the difference between North Carolina and Bermuda. The factors are a ridge in the south central United States and on the western periphery of this Bermuda high. And in between the two, we have this weakness that the model picks up on, and that basically all the models have been handling very nicely for us here. We have this trough that's digging into the eastern portions of Canada and New England of the United States. That's like a block. It will not allow Erin to dive into the New England coastline or even into eastern Canada. It should push Erin offshore as we get into the mid to late part of the week. So this is a good feature for the New England coastline and eastern Canada. Now, talking about the track itself, right? Like I said, there's been a lot of conjecture, you know, about, oh, hey, it's really going due west and, you know, Florida has to pay attention and whatever. I got to tell you that when we look at the track, and this is the historical track from Erin, everything has been spot on. I've mentioned in the previous videos, and go back and look, that, you know, these models still can't handle how quickly these hurricanes are bombing out the last several years, right? So go from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5 in under 24 hours. The models can't handle that, but the tracks have been very good. So when we look at the historical track here, Erin missed Turks and Caicos by 115 miles north and east. That's exactly what the models in the Hurricane Center have showed. And you can clearly see in the last 3 hours, there's been more of a jog to the north-northwest rather than the west-northwest. So it's beginning to round the western side of the Bermuda High and is beginning to turn to the north. And you can clearly see this track from the Hurricane Center very much splitting North Carolina and Bermuda. But that doesn't mean it's not going to come with some big impacts. Remember, Erin is also getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we could start to see, even if Erin is 300 miles off the North Carolina coastline, we could see tropical storm force sustained winds occur along the OBX coast, because Erin itself already from east to west is more than 650 miles wide, and tropical storm force winds extend up to 230 miles from the center, and Erin's forecast is only to get larger and larger over the next 48 to 72 hours. Let me show you those typical spaghetti plots that you guys are used to seeing. Again, we have two outliers. They're never fully within this cone. You know, grant you there's two outliers that try and shove it to South Carolina, but 95% of the models and the global models and the other tropical models take it right up somewhere this cone of uncertainty, right? So the biggest question isn't, is Erin going to stay offshore? It certainly looks like that is the 99% case. The biggest question is how large Erin gets and what are the kind of impacts the East Coast of the United States could see, the Bahamas could see, and Bermuda as we go down the road. So let's get into the models itself. I'm going to bring up the GFS to start with. We got plenty of them. By the way, when you guys see these concentric circles, this is my weather computer painting on the more than likely, forecast wind radii. When you get to the blues, those are your tropical storm force winds. You notice they do brush the Outer Banks of North Carolina and get very close to Bermuda. So this tropical storm watch for OBX, it's not going to shock me if it becomes a tropical storm warning, because tropical storm conditions are more than likely possible in this area as we get into Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll go up the next couple of days here. I'm going to loop this up real quick, and then I'm going to drop off some of this data so it's just a little bit easier for everyone to see. I'm even going to we'll take off the cone as well. So again, this is the GFS, and we'll look at all the different models. Again, if you use a football analogy, we're splitting the uprights of the goalposts right down the middle. But it's an expansive storm, right? And all within this Western Atlantic basin, sea heights, surf conditions, rip currents are going to be astronomically high, right? We're going to have higher tides. We are going to have some beach issues and erosions and dune problems that go along with Erin because it's such a massive storm. The key, though, is that none of the hurricane force winds are forecast to go over any landmass. And the fact that this is likely to become, which is already a Category 4 hurricane, but a high-end Cat 4 again, and it's not going to shock me if we end up briefly getting back to a Cat 5 strength, is absolutely the best case scenario. These are the winds on the GFS model, and you can see how wide and large Erin gets on this. When you start to look at these whites, those are going to be your tropical storm force sustained winds. So again, if we take a second here real quick, first of all, just to go back and what's happening right now, obviously the orientation of the Bahamas tailing off north and west is good for places like New Providence and Grand Bahama because you're farther away. You know, and as Erin begins that more northerly turn, it keeps it a few hundred miles to the east of you guys. And then as we get into, again, late Wednesday and Thursday, and you guys can see the model here, timeline on the left-hand side of your screen, we start to brush the coastline of North Carolina with some of these sustained conditions of tropical storm status, so about 40-mile-an-hour winds. So if we go back to this, again, it's going to be close, right? 30 to 35 with some higher gusts, but the models do have a hard time with how expansive this storm is going to get. And it's not that far offshore that you get really solid tropical storm force conditions. And in Bermuda, we're a little bit farther away, but it's still not going to shock me, right, that we get some sustained tropical storm force winds in that area on Thursday as well. This is the European model ensembles. Again, clearly down the center. Does the far western side potentially touch the Outer Banks? Yes. And again, a little bit closer to Bermuda, but when we look at, I'm going to show you the actual track lines here, they're much more right in that center. When we take a snapshot of the European model, this is late tomorrow night. It's actually very tightly clustered now. So there's not a lot of disagreement with the Euro. And again, to the north and east of the Bahamas and having that northerly track. So all looks good and all looks on track with the European model. When we go and look at the winds, to Thursday afternoon, again, if you live in the eastern side of North Carolina or Virginia or the Delmarva Peninsula, more than likely you are going to get tropical storm conditions, especially for places like Kitty Hawk and Duck and Cape Lookout. I've visited OBX area many, many times. It's a fantastic place. Unfortunately, the surf conditions are going to be rough enough where we're more than likely going to have some flooding issues in some of these areas. And I believe that there are already some mandatory evacuations that have been hoisted up for that area. Kill Devil Hills included in that. Here's the HMON model, and I just want you to look at the expansiveness of the pressure field, right? So this is the pressure. I want you to see how large Erin gets by Thursday afternoon. Again, this will easily be a 650 to 700 mile wide storm, but the pressure fields are expanding because the wind field is expanding. And so it's not going to shock me if at this point in time, we get tropical storm force winds extending more than 300 miles from the center of circulation. So, you know, despite the fact that Erin is basically right in between North Carolina and Bermuda, both places could still experience tropical storm conditions. When we look at the half-A winds with Erin, it is a little bit closer to the coast, but we still have a decent buffer. We're not going to get hurricane winds 175 miles to the west, which is where half-A paints Erin early on Thursday, about a 175 from OBX. But again, these sustained tropical winds are right there. You see that 45-degree number? Sustained tropical storm conditions on the half-A model with Erin late Wednesday and into Thursday there. HMON model, just going through all the different models. Again, extremely large storm, still offshore, still splitting the difference. So looking good track-wise, keeping all the hurricane force winds offshore, but a very large storm with significant issues. The biggest, most widespread issues are going to be the surf and sea conditions. Friends, these are the wave heights in the Western Atlantic Basin. When you see these maroons and fuchsias, that is 45 and 50-foot waves, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Significant wave heights are kind of like the peak of the consistent waves. We could get rogue waves that are over 100 feet high with Erin. And if you think that's not plausible, it happened with Hurricane Dorian, right? So you can double or more your significant wave height with a hurricane of this size near the center. This is why all shipping and all the cruise ships are going nowhere near these areas at this point in time. But I do want you to notice that the double-digit waves are right into the eastern side of the central and northern Bahamas, from the Florida coastline, Brevard County, all the way up the United States East Coast, 10, 12, 14, maybe close to 20-foot significant waves. And even though New England will avoid a direct hit from Erin turning east, you're still going to get a pile of water coming up. So the surf conditions, the beach erosion, the seas, the rip currents, all of that is going to be a very large impact for the East Coast of the United States and Bermuda as well. Would expect Bermuda on the west side to get some double-digit wave heights beginning to move back in those swells. When we look at the European model tracks from Erin, again, there's our friends in Bermuda. Look how tightly clustered everything is. None of the ensemble members have this brushing the Carolina coast or into Bermuda. Let's hope that this track, which is absolutely A+, or the Goldilocks track as it's called, stays this way. To get a Cat 5 hurricane like Erin and to avoid the hurricane winds brushing any of the Lesser Antilles, the Greater Antilles, and the United States East Coast is absolutely amazing. Apologize for this. I literally ran out of slots for stills, so I had to make this a movie. And I didn't realize I was going to do this till I was previewing it. But for the Southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, through to tomorrow morning, 35 to 50 mile an hour sustained winds, gusts to 60. Let's be clear about this, an additional 2 to 6 inches of rain, okay? Large swells and some flooding. So 2 to 6 more inches of rain. That's why there still is a flood threat in those areas, including Hispaniola. The Dominican Republic and Haiti have had some significant rains out of Erin today as well, even though they're well away and that storm is pulling away. So let's break down Erin like this. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to be an extremely large hurricane for the next several days. Tropical storm force winds will expand to extend far away from the center of Erin, and destructive waves and surf and dangerous rip currents will be along the east coast of the United States and Bermuda in the coming days as well. And that's going to be one of the biggest stories. Friends, if you gotten anything out of this video so far, I appreciate taking a quick second and liking the channel. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, come join our fantastic community. Hit that subscribe button right now. Thank you for sharing this channel with your family and friends. And of course, those who have found other ways to support the channel, our memberships, that's the join button, or the super thanks are open as well for that direct support. Appreciate all of those who have found that way. So let's talk now about what's been happening in the rest of our area, and then we're going to deep dive into this puppy, which is not a fun thing to talk about on the back end of Erin, but another tropical wave in the MDR of the Atlantic that's going to really need some close attention, because that one is likely to even take a little bit farther south track, at least initially. So I just want to highlight again some of the areas that are still being impacted. You can clearly see it's been a wet, stormy day across Haiti and the Dominican Republic. You can see the wind gusts there in miles an hour. I'm just going to drop off this orange area, just a little bit easier to see. We'll talk about it coming up, but still kind of the outermost southeast feeder bands are driving in some showers and breezy conditions to Aguadilla and San Juan and the Ponce area. You know, we've had a couple of showers and storms drift over the Virgin Islands, but they are finally beginning to dry out there. We're drier in the Lesser Antilles. Some of this moisture is trying to sneak close to the ABC Islands. My friends in Jamaica have had a very active day. Yes, some of the tropical moisture from Erin is actually feeding in north and east right into Jamaica, and it has really gone gangbusters today. Some very heavy rain, copious amounts of lightning. Let me put on the live lightning data here. By the way, we have live lightning data at Meteo Mundo. We've got the live cameras. We've got a lot of exclusive content. So if you're getting anything out of this, you know, again, I hope you'll continue to watch these videos and help to join and grow our community. Good thunderstorm activity for the central parishes off towards the west. If you live in Kingston, let me know if you had some of the showers earlier, but now it's central and western areas from Mandeville, Maypen, back to Lucy, Negril, Savile-Lamar, our friends there on the northern side of the island as well. A little bit quieter on the drier side for most of Cuba at the hour. We've seen some thunderstorms over the Yucatan. Cancun and Cozumel have been wet and stormy today, and those are really just beginning to flare up. Quieter in Belize City, my friends in Roatan, Uatilla, and Guanaja. And again, if you live in the northern Bahamas, we're going to start to spiral in some more activity. So Eleuthera and New Providence and Andros, and eventually down the road, the Abacos and Grand Bahama, Bimini, and Walker's Key will get wet on the far western side of Erin. But again, the direct hurricane impacts, no. And even here, if we're going to get tropical storm force winds over 39 miles an hour, it's more than likely going to be coming in, you know, squalls rather than sustained winds. This is a video from and I believe this was from yesterday, from the Christiansted area of St. Croix. You know, he said that, again, they had power fluctuations, they had squalls come through. This was the story, right, where most of the Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands and Puerto Rico, you know, your worst weather was behind Erin because the southeast side was actually more active than the southwest side that you got initially. So, you know, yesterday through today, early, you had some of your worst weather. So appreciate sitting in that video. We cap it off with our other live cameras. It's a beautiful shot from Corinth, St. Lucia. You get this far south in Leeward Islands, and man, gorgeous. Aranistad, Aruba looks absolutely fantastic again late on this Monday. Again, not as much of a breeze, but my friends in Aruba say, look, man, when it's not blowing like that, it means it's stinking hot outside, and it has been there as well. All right, so now it's time to talk about this disturbance and then look at our models. And if you apologize, or excuse me one second, got to wet the old whistle here. I'm doing a lot of talking these days. Here's our next tropical wave in the main development region of the Atlantic. It already looks good. The Hurricane Center has already put a 60% chance of development. It's already in orange out there. It may not develop in the next 48 hours, but it could. More than likely, it's going to develop a little bit closer to the Eastern Caribbean. And you notice that this development area is a little bit farther south than where we had Erin's development area. It gets as far south as the Barbados, St. Lucia area. Now, there is still that turn, you know, north and west, but I got to tell you something right now. The models don't really have a good handle on this next system as of yet, and they really shouldn't. Until we get a true low-level center of circulation, these models are picking up on all different things, and the ensembles are picking up on all different things. So, you know, this is simply just watch mode at this point in time. But please note that there is a high likelihood that just later this week, I mean, literally as we're saying goodbye to Erin, as it gets into the northern Atlantic, that not far away from the Lesser Antilles, we will more than likely have a storm, and potentially already a named storm. Ferdinand is the next name in the Atlantic hurricane season. It is the F named storm, the sixth named storm of the season. So let me show you guys a couple of the models with this next storm. So let me pull this up, and we'll go out, we'll go out just to this weekend. I mean, we don't even have to really go out that far. Again, to show you what the GFS and the European model and all the models are showing. Thank goodness for this block right here to push this storm away from the United States East Coast and Eastern Canada. So close to this orange area, we do have the GFS model beginning to develop something. It's still relatively sloppy, but the thing that I want to point out the most with the next potential disturbance is that it's a far more southerly track so far on the GFS model. So it does look like that, you know, even if this doesn't fully wrap up, but I do expect, looking at the conditions that it will, that we could have more direct impacts for portions of the Lesser Antilles. And again, you know, today's the 18th, guys, so we're just looking at 4 days, 5 days down the road that this could begin to get back into the area. So, you know, Friday of this week, something like that, maybe even late Thursday into Friday, and we'll just have to go from there. Then it begins to kind of gain north latitude on the GFS model. But there's not any real reason to start talking about any one area at this point in time. But please note, if you live anywhere near that orange area, please pay attention and be mindful to what might be developing in the next couple of days. European model, same situation, doesn't have a big handle as of yet. By Sunday morning, it's got a couple of areas back in, again, just north of Hispaniola and east of Turks and Caicos, but even has a secondary one east of the Lesser Antilles. It hasn't really pulled together yet, you know, what that wave has been doing. So that's the next one to monitor, but there's not much to grasp at this point in time. Friends, I appreciate you guys. You want to help support the channel, 2 tiers to become a member, 99 cents a month, you become a supporter. Team MM members, $2.99 a month. You get access to exclusive member shorts. That's where I give you short video updates in between these longer format videos. My thoughts, my behind the scenes looks, and obviously some of my takes on some of the tropical situations happening in our area as well. You can also follow us across all social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. Once again, send me a picture or video at mymeteomundo@gmail.com. As always, you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. And please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lane Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Wind, hail, hurricane damage, they'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Again, one more look at what's going on with Erin at this point in time. A Category 4 hurricane. Let's drop off these wind fields one more time for you guys. But the impressive eye beginning to redevelop here. Now it's gone through its IOL replacement cycle. Track looks to be on track with that turn more northwest. So the brush for portions of the central and the southeast Bahamas and Turks and Caicos, and then down the road, the expansive Erin and the very large wave and sea conditions that will bring, and the potential for some tropical storm conditions in both North Carolina and Bermuda to monitor in the coming days. Friends, have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. I'm back tomorrow with your latest forecast for you right here at Meteo Mundo.